you, and I know I never could. Know that I can't find nobody else as good as you. I need you to stay, need you to stay. Today I started a new book named The Art of Public Speaking. Now I'll start with a forward, things to think of first. The efficiency of a book is like that of a man. In one more paradigm, in one important respect, its attitude toward the subject is the first source of its power. A book may be full of good ideas, well expressed, but if its writer views his subject from the wrong angle, even his excellent advice may prove to be ineffective. This book stands or falls by its authors. Academy. This book's Academy again. This book stands or falls by its author's attitude towards its subject. If the best way to teach oneself or to others to speak effectively in public is to fill the mind with rules and to set up fixed standards for the interpretation of thought, the utterance of language, the making of gestures, and all the rest, then this book will be limited in value to such stray ideas throughout its pages as may prove helpful to the reader as an effort to enforce a group of principles. It must be reckoned a failure, but it is then untrue. It is of some importance, therefore, to those who take up this volume with open mind that they should see clearly at the outstart what is the thought that at once underlies and is built through the structure. In plain words, it is this. Training in public speaking is not a matter of externals primarily. It is not a matter of imitation fundamentally. It is not a matter of conformity of standards at all. Public speaking is public utterance, public issuance of the man himself. Therefore, the first thing both in time and importance is that the man should be and think and feel things that are worthy of being given forth. Unless there is something of value to them, no tricks of training can ever make of the talker anything more than a machine, albeit a highly perfected machine. For the delivery of other men's goods, so self-development is fundamental in our plan. The second principle lies close to the first. The man must enthrone his will to rule over his thought, his feelings, and all his physical powers, so that the outer self may give perfect, unhampered expression to the inner. It is without wizard to lay down a system of rules for voice culture, intonation, gesture, and whatnot, unless these two principles of having something to say and making the will so reign have at least begun to make themselves felt in life. The third principle will, which otherwise arouse no dispute. No one can learn how to speak who does not first speak as best as he can. That may seem like a vicious circle statement, but it will bear examination. What is vicious circle? vicious circle. Okay, a negative situation where one problem creates another problem. The second problem then makes the first problem worse. This creates a repeating loop that is hard to stop. Many teachers have begun with the how. Way in effort. It is an ancient truism that we learn to do by doing. The first thing for the beginner in public speaking is to speak, not to study voice and gesture and the rest. Once he has spoken, he can improve himself by self-observation or according to the criticisms of those who hear. But how shall he be able to criticize himself? Simply by finding out three things. What are the qualities which by common consent go to make up an effective speaker? By what means at least some of these qualities may be acquired? And what wrong habits of speech in himself work against his acquiring and using qualities which he finds good? Experience, then, is not only the best teacher, but the first and the last. But experience must be a dual thing. The experience of others must be used to supplement, correct, and justify our own experience. In this way, we shall become our own best critics only after we have trained ourselves in self-knowledge. The knowledge of what others might think, and in the ability to judge ourselves by the standards we have come to believe are right. If I ought, said Kant, I can. This is a very good statement. Let me repeat that again. If I ought, I can. An examination of the contents of this volume will show how consistently these articles of faith have been declared, expounded, and illustrated. The student is urged to begin to speak at once of what he knows. Then he is given simple suggestions for self-control, with gradually increasing emphasis upon the power of the inner man over the outer. Next, the way to be rich storehouses of material is pointed out. And finally, all the while, he is asked to speak, and he is applying to his own methods, in his own personal way, the principles he has gathered from his own experience and observation, and the recorded experience of others. So now at the very first, let it be as clear as light that methods are secondary matters, that the full mind, the warm heart, the dominant will be primary, and not only primary but paramount. For unless it be a full being that uses the methods, it will be like dressing a wooden image in the clothes of a man. J. Berg Eastman, Nabarth, PA, January 1, 1915. The art of public speaking. Sense never fails to give them that habit, words enough to make them understood. It too often helps in some conversations, as in apothecary shops, that those parts that are empty or have things of small value in them are as godly dressed as those that are full of precious drugs. They that soar too high often fall hard, making a low and level dwelling preferable. The tallest trees are most in the power of the winds. The ambitious men of the blast of fortune better have need of a good foundation that lies so much exposed to the weather. William Penn. Chapter 1. Acquiring confidence before an audience. There is a strange sensation often experienced in the presence of an audience. It may proceed from the gaze of the many eyes that turn upon the speaker, especially if he permits himself to steadily return that gaze. Most speakers have been conscious of this in a nameless ring, a real something pervading the atmosphere, tangible, evanescent, indescribable. All writers have borne testimony to the power of a speaker's eye in impressing an audience. This influence, which we are not considering, is the reverse of that picture. The power their eyes may exert upon him, especially before he begins to speak. After the inward fires of oratory are fanned into flame, the eyes of the audience lose all terror. William Pittenger, extempore speech. Students of public speaking continually ask, how can I overcome self-consciousness and the fear that paralyzes me before an audience? Did you ever notice in looking from a train window that some horses feed near the track and never even pause to look up at the thundering cars, while just ahead at the next railroad crossing a farmer's wife will be nervously trying to fight her scared horse as the train goes by? How would you cure a horse that is afraid of cars? Graze him in a backwoods lodge where he would never see steam engines or automobiles, or drive or pasture him where he would frequently see the machines. I should stop here. This is a very intriguing statement. A thought about it. Apply hard sense to ridding yourself of self-consciousness and fear. Face an audience as frequently as you can, and you will soon stop shying. You can never attain freedom from stage fright by reading a treatise. A book may give you excellent suggestions on how best to conduct yourself in the water, but sooner or later you must get wet. Perhaps even strangle and be half scared to death. There are a great many wetless bathing suits worn at the seashore, but no one even learns to swim in them. To plunge is the only way. Practice, practice, practice in speaking before an audience will tend to remove all fear of audiences, just as practicing swimming will lead to confidence and facility in the water. You must learn to speak by speaking. The Apostle Paul tells us that every man must work out his own salvation. All we can do here is to offer you suggestions as to how best to prepare for a plunge. The real plunge no one can take for you. A doctor may prescribe, but you must take the medicine. Do not be disheartened if at first you suffer from stage fright. Dan Patch was more susceptible. Dan Patch was more susceptible to suffering than a superannuated dray horse would be. It never hurts a fool to appear before an audience, for its capacity is not a capacity for feeling. A blow that would kill a civilized man soon heals on a savage. The higher we go in the scale of life, the greater is the capacity for suffering. For one reason or another, some master speakers never entirely overcome stage fright. It will pay you to spare no pains to conquer it. Daniel Webster failed in his first appearance and had to take his seat without finishing his speech because he was nervous. Oh, my head is aching hardly. How can I lose that? Oh, relax, ground, ground. Stay in touch with ground. Ground yourself, pal. It relieves. Gladstone was often troubled with self-consciousness, the beginning of an address. Beecher was always critical before talking in public. Blacksmith sometimes twisted rope tight around the nose of a horse, and by thus inflicting a little sore by your subject. Apply the blacksmith's homely principle when you're speaking. If you feel deeply about your subject, you will be able to think of little else. Concentration is a process of distraction from less important matters. It is too late to think about the color of your coat when once you are upon the platform. So center your interest on what you're about to say. Fill your mind with your speech material, and like the infilling water in the glass, will dry out your unsubstantial fears. Self-consciousness is undue consciousness of self. And for the purpose of delivery, self is secondary to your subject, not only the opinion of the audience, but if you rise on your own. To hold any other view is to regard yourself as an exhibit instead of as a messenger with a message worth delivering. Do you remember Albert Hubbard's tremendous little tract, A Message to Garcia? The youth subordinated himself to the message he bore. So must you, by all the determination you can muster. It is sheer egoism to fill your mind with thoughts of self when a greater thing is there. Truth. Say this to yourself sternly and shame your self-consciousness into quiescence. If the theater caught fire, he could rush to the stage and shout directions to the audience without any self-consciousness. For the importance of what you were saying would drive all fear thoughts out of your mind. Let me read that again. It is sheer egotism to fill your mind with thoughts of self when a greater thing is there. Truth. Say this to yourself sternly and shame your self-consciousness into quiescence. If the theater caught fire, you could rush to the stage and shout directions to the audience without any self-consciousness. Far worse than self-consciousness, through fear of doing poorly, is self-consciousness through assumption of doing well. The first sign of greatness is when a man does not attempt to look and act great. Before you can call yourself a man at all, Kipling assures us, you must not look too good, nor talk too wise. Nothing advertises itself so truly as a conceit. One may be so full of self as to be empty. Voltaire said, "You must conceal self-love." Conceal, what does that mean? To hide something from being seen. Fine. We must conceal self-love. We must hide self-love. But that cannot be done. You know this is to be true. You have recognized overweening self-love in others. If you have it, others are seeing it in you. There are things in this world bigger than self, and in walking through them, self will be forgotten. Or what is better, remembered only so as to help us win toward higher things. Number two, have something to say. The trouble with many speakers is that they go before an audience with their mind blank. It is no wonder that nature, abhorring a vacuum, fills them with the nearest thing handy, which generally happens to be, I wonder if I'm doing this right. How does my hair look? I know I shall fail. Their prophetic souls are sure to be right. It is not enough to be absorbed by your subject. To acquire self-confidence, you must have something in which to be confident. If you go before an audience without any preparation or previous knowledge of the subject, you ought to be self-conscious. You ought to be ashamed to steal the time of your audience. Prepare yourself, know what you're going to talk about, and in general, how you're going to say it. Have the first few sentences worked out completely so that you may not be troubled in the beginning to find words. Know your subject better than your hearers know it, and you have nothing to fear. Now, after preparing for success, expect it. Let your bearing be modestly confident, but most of all, be modestly confident within. Overconfidence is bad, but to tolerate premonitions of failure is worse. For a bold man may win attention by his very bearing, while a rabbit-hearted coward invites disaster. Humility is not the personal discount that we must offer in the presence of others. Against this old interpretation, there has been a most healthy modern reaction. True humility, any man who truly knows himself must feel. But it is not humility that assures a worm-like meekness. It is rather a strong, vibrant player, and it is rather a strong, vibrant prayer for greater power for service. A prayer that Uriah Heep could never have uttered. Washington Irving once introduced Charles Dickens at a dinner given in the latter's honor. In the middle of his speech, Irving hesitated, became embarrassed, and sat down awkwardly. Turning to a friend beside him, he remarked, "There, I told you I would fail, and I did. The fact that I don't have to do this. I have to stop it. I have to do this." Okay. If you believe you fail, there's no hope for you. You will. Rid yourself of this "I'm a poor worm in the dust" idea. You are a God with infinite capabilities. All things are ready if the mind is open. The eagle looks, the clouds, the cloudless sun in the face. Assume mastery over your audience. In public speech, as in electricity, there is a positive and a negative force. Either you or your audience are going to possess the positive factor. If you assume it, you can almost invariably make it yours. If you assume the negative, you are sure to be negative. Let me say that again. If you assume the negative, you are sure to be negative. Assuming a virtue or a vice vitalizes it. Summon all your power and self-direction. And remember that though your audience is infinitely more important than you, the truth is more important than both of you because it is eternal. If your mind falters in its leadership, this world will drop from your hands. Your assumption of being able to instruct or lead or inspire a multitude or even a small group of people may appall you as being colossal impotence, as indeed it may be. But having once essayed to speak, be courageous. Be courageous. It lies within you to be what you will. Make yourself be calm and confident. Reflect that your audience will not hurt you. If Peter in Liverpool had spoken behind a wire screen, he would have invited the audience to throw the overripe missiles with which they were loaded. But he was a man, confronted his hostile hearers fearlessly and warned them. In facing your audience, pause a moment and look them over. 100 chances to 1 they want you to succeed. For what man is so foolish as to spend his time, perhaps his money, in the hope that you will waste his investment by talking dully? Concluding hints. Do not make haste to begin. Haste shows lack of control. Do not apologize. It ought not to be necessary. And if it is, it will not help. Go straight ahead. Take a deep breath, relax, and begin in a quiet conversational tone, as though you're speaking to one large friend. You will not find it half so bad as you imagine. Really, it is like taking a cold plunge. What is plunge? Jump, fall suddenly with force. Plunge means jumping. After rain, the water is fine. In fact, having spoken a few times, you will even anticipate the plunge with exhilaration. To stand before an audience, make them think your thoughts of you, is one of the greatest pleasure you can ever know. Instead of fearing it, you ought to be anxious as the folks hound straight at their leashes, or the race horses tugging at their reins. So cast out fear, for fear is cowardly when it's not mastered. The bravest know fear, but they do not yield to it. Face your audience pluckily. If your knees quake, make them stop. In your audience lies some victory for you, and the cause you represent. Go with it. Suppose Charles Martel had been afraid to hammer the Syracuse and Towers. Suppose Columbus had feared to venture out into the unknown West. Suppose our forefathers had been too timid to oppose the tyranny of George III. Suppose that any man who ever did anything was, while had been a coward. The world owes its progress to the men who have dared, and you must dare to speak the effective word that is in your heart to speak. For often, it requires courage to utter a single sentence. But remember that man erects no monuments and reveals no laurels for those who fear to do what they can. Is all this unsympathetic, you say? Man, what you need is not sympathy, but a push. No one doubts that temperament and nerves, that illness, pardon me. No one doubts that temperament, nerves and illness, and even praiseworthy modesty may, singular combined, cause the speaker's cheek to blanch for an audience. But neither can one but neither can anyone doubt that Carlin will magnify this weakness. The victory lies in a fearless frame of mind. Professor Walter Dill Scott says, success or failure in business is caused more by mental attitude, even than by mental capacity. Banish the fear attitude, acquire the confident attitude, and remember that the only way to acquire it is to acquire it. In this foundation chapter, we have tried to strike the tone of march that is to follow. Many of these ideas will be amplified and enforced in a more specific way. But through all these chapters on an art which Mr. Gladstone believed to be more powerful than the public press, the note of justifiable self-confidence was sound again and again. There are some questions and exercises after this chapter. Number one, what is the cause of self-consciousness? Let me think about that. I think it is the fear or the need to be perfect, to look perfect, to look all right, to look the best, to be perceived as best. That causes self-consciousness. At least I believe. I believe it so. Number two, why are animals free from it? Animals are free from self-consciousness. I think their minds lack a part that enforces them to be perfect, to look perfect, to care. I think their minds are built different. I don't know, I may be wrong. What is your observation regarding self-consciousness in children? I think children aren't self-conscious at all in the beginning. Though when they proceed through life, they become self-conscious. I agree. But in the starting, when a child is born, they aren't self-conscious at all. They do anything. They do everything that is shameful or that is not that is perfect at all. They always stay chill, calm, and relaxed, whatever. Number four, why are you free from it under the stress of unusual excitement? I think at that time, mind suppress the self-consciousness and look or focus at more important matters at that time. I think biology has settled the human brain to behave like that, to value more important things more. Number five, how does moderate excitement affect you? Moderate excitement, I don't know what is it at all. Let me think about that. Moderate excitement affects you. I don't know at all. I'm not having any memory about it. I'll think about that later. Maybe not. What are the two fundamental requisites for acquiring of self-confidence, which is more important? First is have something to say, and second, I forgot. I forgot it. Let me read that again. forgot it, man. It was too generic and redundant that I forgot it. Experience, maybe experience. Or next question, which is more important. I think experience. I think exposing yourself in public is more important. Number seven, what effect does confidence on the part of the speaker have on the audience? If speaker has confidence, that audience resonates with him. The audience understand what he wants to say, and they think like him. They think what the speaker wants them to think, and that is the most pleasurable thing, as the writer said. Number eight, write out the 2 minute speech on confidence and cowardice. I can't. I will try later. Number nine, what effect do habits of thought have on confidence? Habits of thought. What is that? I don't know. In this connection, read the chapter on right thinking personality. Okay, I am skipping that question. Write out very briefly any experience you may have involved in the teachings of this chapter. I knew a little things already that are taught in this chapter, which are the thing which is, as a usual example, the water glass. If you want to empty the glass of air, fill it with water. I heard about it yesterday. It was a trick to divert your mind from distractions. That wear a rubber band like thing in your hand. Every time you feel self-conscious, just pull it, and release it. It will stop you and cause a pain so that your mind immediately distracts from the self-consciousness to the real pain he's feeling. Mind does not know the difference between real danger and assumed danger. The assumed danger is self-consciousness, and the real danger is this. If your mind focuses on this, you instantly forget that you are self-conscious. And many more things I already knew because I am studying it for many years ago. Give a 3 minute talk on stage fright, including a kindly imitation of 2 or more victims. I can't. It is a very demanding thing. But good. Let me leave.